Welcome back to Second Floor Basement, your go-to source for anime summaries and recaps. Hit subscribe and join the legion of anime aficionados and otakus riding the wave. Get ready for a wild ride with Solo Leveling. 3 years ago, a fleet of warships surrounded a small island infested with monsters. Conventional weapons were useless, so the Jeju Island raiding squad, armed with swords, shields, daggers, and magic, faced off against giant red ants. Overwhelmed, the hunters seemed doomed until S-rank hunters Min Byung-gyu, Yoon Seok, and Baek Yun-ho intervened, saving the day. 10 years earlier, gates to another dimension had opened worldwide, unleashing magic beasts and awakening magical abilities in some humans, who became known as hunters. Ranked from E to S, their powers never increased. At a construction site, the weakest hunter, Sung Jin-Woo, joined a raid. Despite his low rank, he was well-liked. He chatted with Lee Ju-hee, a healer, before the team, led by Song Chi-yul, entered the dungeon. Jin-Woo carried a low-power knife, the best he could afford. Elsewhere, Korean Hunters Association Chairman Go Gun-hee discussed dungeon raid resources with his assistant, emphasizing the value of essence stones. In the dungeon, Jin-Woo found his first essence stone but was attacked by a goblin. Saved by his team, he watched them defeat the dungeon boss, a werewolf. Ju-hee healed him as Jiango discovered a rare double dungeon. Needing money for his family, Jin-Woo voted to explore it despite Ju-hee's concerns. Meanwhile, S-rank hunter Cha Hae-in stopped a purse snatcher in the city, drawing public attention before escaping. Back in the dungeon, Jin-Woo's team reached a massive door after 40 minutes. Inside, ancient statues surrounded them. Suddenly, the door shut, and a statue killed a team member. Jin-Woo, recalling past close calls, warned the team as the giant statue attacked, incinerating some hunters. He saved Ju-hee but realized they were in grave danger. Paralyzed with fear, Jin-Woo's comrades are unsure what to do after witnessing 2 members' deaths. Chi-yul warns them not to move to avoid triggering another attack. Jin-Woo tries to comfort a traumatized Ju-hee, while Chi-yul, who lost an arm, deduces the statue's strength is A or S rank. He recites the commandments: worship God, praise God, prove thy faith, realizing God refers to the giant statue. The narrator explains Hunter's strength and resilience. In school, Jin-Woo's sister Jaina talks about her brother's E-rank status with her friend Song-yi. In the dungeon, Ju Jae-hwan tries to escape but is killed by the statue. Jin-Woo tests the first commandment by kneeling, leading the others to follow suit. When they stand, the statue attacks, crushing a hunter who tries to praise it incorrectly. As panic ensues, Jin-Woo directs survivors to statues holding instruments, activating them to halt the statue's attacks. Despite injuries, Jin-Woo manages to activate a singing statue, stopping the giant statue. Ju-hee heals Jin-Woo's lost leg, but Chi-yul is reminded of his responsibility for their dead comrades. A stone altar appears, and Jin-Woo directs everyone to it, igniting blue flames and opening the dungeon door. As statues close in, Jin-Woo realizes looking at them prevents movement, akin to a childhood game. When only Jin-Woo, Ju-hee, and Chi-yul remain, Chi-yul carries an exhausted Ju-hee out, leaving Jin-Woo behind. Jin-Woo, wounded and desperate, grabs a sword but is overwhelmed by the statues. As he bleeds on the altar, a statue strikes him. An interface appears in his mind, offering a choice to become a player. Jin-Woo accepts. After his harrowing experience in the double dungeon, Jin-Woo wakes up in a hospital, surprised to find his body fully healed. Woo Jinchul and Kang Tae-shik from the Korean Hunters Association visit, revealing he's been unconscious for 3 days. They question if he has undergone a second awakening and test his mana, but his score is a mere 10, leaving Jin-Woo disappointed. His sister, Jaina, visits, expressing concern and suggesting she quit school to support him. Jin-Woo realizes the system messages he sees are invisible to others and begins investigating them. He finds a daily quest requiring intense exercises but dismisses it as a delusion. Meanwhile, Jinchul and Tae-shik report a potential error in Jin-Woo's assessment to Go Gun-hee. At the Hunters Guild, Choi Jang-in assigns Cha Hae-in to lead a B-rank raid to assess new recruits. Civilians are disrupted by a new gate appearing on a road, setting the stage for a future dungeon break. Jin-Woo, ignoring the daily quest, is jolted awake by what he thinks is an earthquake and finds himself in a desert, tasked with surviving for 4 hours. Nurses later find him exhausted in his hospital room. Determined, Jin-Woo starts following the quest instructions, gradually understanding the system's rewards. Lee Joo-hee, still traumatized, declines a raid invitation and visits Jin-Woo at the hospital, finding him jogging outside. Jin-Woo receives a special reward, a key to an instance dungeon at Hapjeong subway station. He visits his comatose mother and reminisces about his past struggles as a weak hunter. With newfound confidence, Jin-Woo uses the key, entering the subway dungeon but realizing he's trapped in another dimension. He encounters goblins and a steel-fanged Raikan, facing his perilous situation with growing resolve. After defeating goblins, Jin-Woo faces a wolf magic beast. Despite his broken dagger, his newfound agility allows him to dodge and land a powerful blow. Realizing he needs a weapon, he accesses his inventory and retrieves a sword to kill the wolf. 2 more wolves appear. He defeats one while the other flees. Jin-Woo checks his stats and acquires items instead of magic gems, selling them for currency. Determined, he faces more steel-fanged wolves, defeating them all. Using a teleportation stone, he continues deeper into the dungeon. Outside, Lee Joo-hee receives a call about a dungeon break and reluctantly agrees to help due to a shortage of healers. In the dungeon, Jin-Woo understands the color-coded strength levels of magic beasts and bravely descends into an expansive sewer. He encounters the dungeon boss, Blue Venom-fanged Kasaka. After a fierce battle, Jin-Woo uses his enhanced strength to kill the snake and acquires Kasaka's Venom Fang, a powerful dagger. The dungeon reverts back to Hapjeong subway station. A soldier scolds Jin-Woo for being there, but realizes he's a hunter and guides him out. Jin-Woo detects a giant magic beast, a blue stone golem, being fought by E and D rank hunters. The hunters struggle, and Jin-Woo notices Joo-hee among them, struggling with her healing magic. Recognizing the golem as a D-rank beast, Jin-Woo intervenes, throwing a broken sword to pierce its eye and turn the tide. The hunters defeat the golem. A tanker among the hunters is puzzled by the sudden breach in the golem's defenses and learns an unidentified hunter, Jin-Woo, was responsible. Joo-hee catches a glimpse of Jin-Woo in an alley, wondering if he was the one who saved them. The hospital nurses gossiped about Jin-Woo's impressive physique, the result of his system-provided strength training. Nurse Choyura, blushing at his muscles post-workout, nervously informed him of his discharge and asked for his phone number, which he innocently provided. Meanwhile, S-rank hunter Baek Yun-ho appeared on a morning news show, discussing his rare status and daily training routine. Jin-Woo's sister, Jaina, watched the interview while getting ready for school and noticed her brother's transformed appearance, even commenting that he seemed taller. Jin-Woo reviewed his training quests and allocated his stat points after defeating a dungeon boss. A phone call from his landlord about overdue rent reminded him to find raid work. Despite being capable of handling higher-ranked dungeons, Jin-Woo, still technically an E-rank hunter, preferred to avoid scrutiny. He found a job listing and met the raid leader, Hwang Dong-suk, at a C-rank dungeon site. Despite his reputation as the weakest hunter, Jin-Woo joined the raid to meet their hunter quota. He noticed the lack of a healer but signed the release form and joined. At the dungeon gate, Jin-Woo met 21-year-old D-rank hunter Yoo Jin-ho, who wore expensive armor. Inside the dark dungeon, Jin-Woo sensed the presence of insect-type beasts. He warned the group just before they were attacked by ant-like monsters. The hunters fought well, and Jin-ho's armor protected him. Elsewhere, S-rank hunter Baek trained by smashing through stone. As the group explored the mostly empty dungeon, they found the boss chamber filled with mana stones and a sleeping giant spider. Hwang planned to take the hall and trick Jin-ho and Jin-Woo into staying behind. The group then trapped them inside with the spider, planning to use them as bait. Jin-Woo told Jin-ho to stay back as he prepared to take on the boss himself. Hwang Dong-suk and his team leave the dungeon gate, planning to return after the giant arachnid barrier deals with Jin-Woo and Jin-Ho. They mock Jin-Woo, known as the weakest hunter, and Jin-Ho's lack of raid experience, eyeing his expensive gear for loot. Their selfish motive is to loot valuable mana crystals without battling the arachnid, risking a dungeon break. In the C-rank dungeon boss's lair, Jin-Ho suggests finding an exit, but Jin-Woo, undeterred by danger, engages the spider. Despite relentless efforts, his dagger fails to penetrate the spider's exoskeleton. Jin-Ho, shocked by Jin-Woo's speed and skill, wonders if Jin-Woo is a false ranker. Exhausted, Jin-Woo uses a full recovery reward to re-energize, then pierces the spider's eye, defeating it. Jin-Ho, acting strangely, calls Jin-Woo boss and offers water. The raid party, surprised to see them alive, reappears. Elsewhere, Chairman Go of the Hunters Guild spars with his subordinate, Jinchul, to relieve stress, showcasing their training's importance. Back in the boss lair, Donsuk's group returns, mistakenly believing Jin-Ho defeated the spider. Donsuk demands Jin-Ho kill Jin-Woo to save himself. Jin-Ho refuses, and Donsuk orders his group to kill Jin-Woo. A system message tasks Jin-Woo with slaying the 6 hunters. Q1 attacks Jin-Woo, who contemplates the system's survival demand. Determined to use the system, Jin-Woo rises and kills the attackers, leaving only Donsuk. Jin-Woo easily defeats Donsuk, who pleads for mercy. Jin-Woo, recalling Donsuk's betrayal, kills him, and the dungeon closes. Jin-Ho and Jin-Woo exit safely. A Hunters Guild representative is surprised that only the D-rank and E-rank hunters survived, assuming Jin-Ho's equipment played a role. As rain falls, Jin-Woo is glad he gave his sister an umbrella that morning. An agent reports to Woo Jinchul that 8 hunters entered the insect's dungeon, but only D-rank Yu Jin-Ho and E-rank Sung Jin-Woo survived. Woo's interest peaks upon learning that Jin-Woo, previously investigated for reawakening, was involved. One of the deceased was Hwang Dong-soo's brother, Hwang Dong-suk. At home, Jin-Woo brings fried chicken to his sister, Jaina, and assures her he can cover their mother's hospital bills. When Jaina asks about the raid, Jin-Woo reflects on how easily he killed the other hunters. Later, the system detoxifies him from alcohol as he reviews his abilities, including Candiaru's blessing, which explains his limb regeneration. Yu Jin-Ho calls, expressing gratitude and trying to recruit Jin-Woo for a strike team, but Jin-Woo declines. Jin-Ho's persistence and threat to reveal Jin-Woo's secret also fail to sway him. In America, Laura informs Hwang Dong-soo about his brother's death. Furious, Dong-soo considers revenge but is constrained by his obligations to the Scavenger Guild. He plans to act after completing his current duties. Jin-Woo and Jaina jog in the park, discussing what they would do with 30 billion won. Jin-Woo completes double his daily quest requirements, unlocking a secret quest that rewards him with a key to an S-rank dungeon, the Demon's Castle, which contains an elixir of life to potentially cure his mother. Entering the dungeon, Jin-Woo faces Hell's gatekeeper Cerberus. Despite his best efforts and using all his skills, Jin-Woo barely damages the beast and loses an arm. He uses full recovery, a healing potion, and Kasaka's venom gland to gain the upper hand. After a fierce battle, he defeats Cerberus, leveling up and healing his wounds. His rewards include a key to the Demon King's castle and the recipe for the elixir of life. Determined to help his mother, Jin-Woo vows to return and claim the ingredients. Sung Jin-Woo watches over his mother, Park Kyung-hae, in the hospital, determined to heal her from eternal sleep disease by getting stronger to attack the Demon Castle for the elixir of life ingredients. At Cafe Peen, Jin-Woo agrees to join Yu Jin-Ho on 19 dungeon raids, but only if they go alone. Jin-Ho will hire extra hunters to meet the minimum requirement, planning to impress his father with 0 casualties. Cha Hae-in, training at a track field, is approached by Yu Byung-gil from Eugene Construction about becoming a guild master for their new Eugene Guild. In a tense car ride, Jin-Ho's father, Yu Myung-han, discusses the importance of forming their own guild, planning for Jin-Ho's brother to lead, leaving Jin-Ho feeling sidelined. After completing his daily quest, Jin-Woo finds he can't overclock the requirements for the Demon Castle key again. Considering hunting for experience, he receives an urgent D-rank dungeon call from the Hunters Association and decides to join. Song Chi-yeol, teaching at his dojo, receives the urgent raid notification and resolves to participate despite his age and injuries, wanting to contribute to society. Kim Sang-shik, at home with his family, decides to join the raid for financial reasons despite his wife's concerns, motivated by their financial needs. At the Hunters Guild headquarters, Baek Yun-ho and Choi Jang-in discuss the threat posed by the new Eugene Guild. They also talk about reclaiming Jeju Island, with Choi emphasizing the need for stronger recruitment. Lee Joo-hee, struggling with her own doubts, is inspired by Jin-Woo's determination and resolves to persevere. She receives the same D-rank raid notification as Jin-Woo, Song, and Kim Cha-hae-in informs Choi Jang-in that Eugene Construction offered her a guild master position, which she declined. Choi is relieved and discusses Baek Yun-ho's visit. Reflecting over a drink, Baek remembers Choi's serious talk about reclaiming Jeju Island and the need to sway public opinion and recruit more hunters. Jin-Woo sets off for the urgent raid, surprising his sister by leaving without gear, confident in his abilities. Song, also heading to the raid, reflects on his transformation and reconnects with Jin-Woo, noticing his fully healed leg. At the gate, Song, Jin-Woo, Kim, Kang Jeong-go, and Lee Joo-hee, all survivors of the double dungeon, reunite. The atmosphere is tense as Kim and Jeong-go avoid eye contact, feeling guilty. Joo-hee is joyful to see Jin-Woo. Their reunion is interrupted by 3 C-rank hunters in handcuffs, part of a substitute hunter program to reduce prison sentences. B-rank hunter Kang Tae-shik oversees them, reflecting the urgency and shortage of available hunters. In the depths of the D-rank dungeon, Jin-Woo reunites with his former strike team from the double dungeon incident. Tensions linger with Kim, whom Jin-Woo resents for abandoning him before. Meanwhile, goblins are vanquished mercilessly by the prisoner hunters, overseen by Kang Tae-shik. After the battle, Song remarks on Jin-Woo's newfound strength and unique aura, while Joo-hee hopes they won't need her healing. They split up at a fork, with Jin-Woo identifying the boss's location and opting for the left path with Song and Joo-hee. As Kim and Jeong-go dispatch goblins effortlessly, Kim decides to apologize to Jin-Woo for leaving him behind in the double dungeon, despite Jeong-go's skepticism. Tae-shik, overseeing the prisoners, recalls a dark encounter with the convict's victim's father, who offered him money to assassinate them. Tae-shik devises a plan to eliminate the prisoners and frames it as a goblin attack. In the left tunnel, Jin-Woo remembers Tae-shik's previous visit and hears a scream. They rush to find the other hunters slaughtered, including Kim and Kang. Kim apologizes to Jin-Woo before succumbing to his injuries. Tae-shik attacks Joo-hee, prompting Jin-Woo to intervene. Song defends them against Tae-shik, who unleashes his stealth ability. Despite Jin-Woo's injuries, he defeats Tae-shik with a surprise attack, revealing his murderous intent skill. Joo-hee and Kim leave the dungeon while Jin-Woo finishes the boss. Investigator Woo Jin-chul arrives, and Song claims responsibility for defeating Tae-shik. The man who hired Tae-shik is arrested, and Jin-Woo and Joo-hee relax in a nearby park, reminiscing about past encounters. After a successful raid, Jin-Woo and Joo-hee share a peaceful walk in the park. Joo-hee, doubting her hunter career due to timidity, thanks Jin-Woo for their encounters, returning the E-rank Essence Stone. She decides to retire and expresses hope to meet Jin-Woo again, parting with a smile. Alone, Jin-Woo recalls a warning from Woo Jin-chul about S-rank hunter Hwang Dong-su's potential revenge. To him, this emphasizes the need to grow stronger. Later, Jin-Woo and Jin-ho lead a unique team through a C-rank dungeon. Despite skepticism, they swiftly clear it, impressing their teammates. In subsequent dungeons, Jin-Woo's power grows, leveling up his skills and defeating bosses effortlessly. He considers boosting his intelligence to prepare for the job change quest. Meanwhile, On from the White Tiger Guild recognizes Jin-Woo's potential and aims to recruit him. Jin-Woo's negotiation skills impress On, who eventually agrees to buy gates from Jin-Woo, realizing his value. Jin-Woo administers a healing potion to On, leaving him intrigued by Jin-Woo's abilities. As Jin-Woo embarks on his new quest, reflects on his newfound contact. Jin-Woo drives off, eager to begin his next adventure. At dusk, Jin-Woo hesitates before summoning the Instance Dungeon but proceeds, ignoring his daily quest for now. Inside, he battles a knight, struggling until he recalls Kasaka's Venom Farm, which he uses to defeat it. Meanwhile, at a family dinner, tension rises as Jinho faces pressure from his father about guild plans and Jinwoo's secret advantage. In the dungeon, Jin-Woo faces challenges like a potion ban and fights multiple foes, strategizing to conserve his strength. Elsewhere, guild leader Choi Jang-in prepares for a mission to Jeju Island, determined to finish what was started. As Jin-Woo faces Knight Commander Igris, he struggles but eventually defeats him, obtaining valuable rewards. However, more enemies appear, pushing Jin-Woo to his limits. Thrown and battered, Jin-Woo faces overwhelming odds in the throne room. Memories of past doubts torment him, but Song Chi-yeol's voice interrupts, urging him to relent. Lee Ju-hee echoes the sentiment. Then, Jin-Woo's own voice taunts him, tempting surrender. In the chairman's office, Go-Gun-hee reflects on the mental scars hunters endure. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo's inner turmoil intensifies, battling his past self's mockery as he faces defeat once more. Suddenly, transported to the penalty zone, Jin-Woo contemplates his fate. Revitalized by mana potions, Jin-Woo faces giant centipedes, determined to grow stronger. Back in his apartment, Jaina wonders where her brother is. In the penalty zone, Jin-Woo defeats centipedes, levels up, and prepares for battle. Choi Jang-in approaches Jeju Island, detecting mana. Returning to the throne room, Jin-Woo realizes the true enemies are the mages summoning the knights. After a grueling battle, he completes the job change quest, becoming a Shadow Monarch. Back at the Hunters Association, Choi awaits news from Jeju Island. As dawn breaks, Jin-Woo's class evolves, granting him the power to command a shadow army. Despite initial failures, Jin-Woo persuades Igris to join him. On Jeju Island, Choi faces evolved magic beasts.